Hi everyone, I'm Amir. I'm glad to have you back here in this new episode with my co-host Super.
Hello everyone, we've prepared another banger video for you guys, accompanied with a very special guest today. She's a highly accomplished medical student, a devoted mother, and a valuable mentor to many freshmen. Her impressive academic record and research has earned her numerous accolades and recognition among her peers and various faculty members. Before we dive in, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm a second-year medical student at Semmelweis. I am also a student researcher at the Department of Biochemistry, which I'm very passionate about. I'm a London University business graduate, and I'm also a mom of 4 kids. I was born in the USSR, but because my dad passed away when I was a baby, I ended up being raised in an international family, with my stepdad coming from the United Kingdom and Ireland. And on top of that, we ended up moving a lot. I lived in China and Vietnam for many years. I got married when I was 19, and because my husband was based in Hungary, I ended up moving here to Budapest, and I've been here since 2011.
I'm a bit curious about 2 other parts of your background, and my first question is, do you come from a family of doctors or healthcare workers?
I don't have any doctors in my family, but my grandmother worked as a nurse for many years.
And why did you start studying medicine at this point in your life?
Well, I always really wanted to study medicine. It was a huge dream, but unfortunately I couldn't do it as a teenager at the time for many different reasons, mostly because, we lived abroad at the time and it was very complicated. So I ended up doing many other things over the years. I was a teacher in Shanghai and Moscow and Budapest. I helped my husband to run his business, so I ended up getting a business degree because it made sense at the time. And in 2019, when I graduated, I was actually in the middle of applying for a master's degree in linguistics. But that was the point in our life when my husband's granddad passed away, unfortunately. And he was very sick in the last few years of his life, so we were in and out of hospitals. There were multiple ambulances at our house yearly. And I remember going into the hospital for the very last time, holding his hand while he was in a coma, and I just felt so helpless, and I wished I could do more. So when he passed away, it took me a couple of months of thinking it over, and then I came to the decision to pursue my own dream, and my family were very supportive of that decision.
And how did you get accepted to Semmelweis?
When I first started preparing, I didn't know what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. And financially, it also wasn't, very clear. So the original plan was for me to apply to the Hungarian language program. And for that, I needed to study biology and chemistry A-levels, which is what I did mostly on my own with some guidance from a friend. And I had to travel to Croatia to take my exams because it turned out to be the nearest test center in the middle of my prep, which was a very funny story. But eventually, once I finished my biology A-level exam, I was about to start preparing for the chemistry part. And that's when I found out about an opportunity to finance my studies in the English language program. And so I switched halfway through and started preparing for the English language program exams, the entry exam. I did that. And then I took my exam in March. And I got my acceptance letter a few days later. And that was honestly one of the happiest days of my life.
And how did your family react and everyone when you got accepted to medicine?
Oh, they were really thrilled. It was super exciting. Everybody was, crying. We couldn't believe it. And it was just a dream come true, really.
I mean, hard work does pay off at the end of the day. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
I know you're in second year, but I'm just going to say it again. Congratulations for getting accepted.
Thank you.
And you say you wanted to do medicine, but how did the idea of research come about?
Research never occurred to me at all, to be honest, until I started preparing for med school. A couple of coincidences led me to that idea and passion at the time. I had to do, the A-level exam in biology, which has a practical component.
Yes.
And I'm a kind of person who had never even seen a microscope before in my life at that point. And I was really lucky to have a friend who introduced me to a couple of people who were really kind and invited me to their workplaces where they showed me some of the skills that I needed for this exam. One of them was a lovely gentleman at the Research Institute here in Budapest, and he introduced me to different types of microscopes. And I remember being completely blown away by the experience. And a little bit later on, another lady showed me a chemistry lab at University. And I remember, feeling like I'm at Disneyland. I know it sounds nerdy, I know. But I remember being so excited to be there. I had so many questions. I didn't want to leave. And that's when the thought occurred to me first. But I think a sort of turning decisive point came a little bit later that year on my birthday, when a good friend of mine gifted me 2 books. One of them was written by Watson about the helical structure of DNA. And the other one, a very special book to me, is about the life of Albert Szent-Györgyi, who is a very famous Hungarian scientist. You probably know we've got a lecture hall in our university named after him. And in a sort of fateful way, he was actually the founder of the Department of Biochemistry, where I work today.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
And when you mentioned the excitement, I think Amir and I can relate that we were very excited when it was our first time going to the operation room. So, I mean, obviously it's not the same, but yeah, this was typically something I think we can all relate to.
Absolutely.
And when and how did you join research?
I joined research in my 2nd semester of studies, but I was looking into opportunities right from the very beginning because I was very interested. And I remember feeling a little bit discouraged at first because I talked to a lot of people, and the information that I got led me to believe that, it's not really possible to join research at that point yet. And I remember attending a very special event, which was focused on research. And there were 2 very informative lectures given by Dr. Glevitsky, who is a vascular surgeon at Mayo Clinic, and he's also the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Vascular Surgery. And the other lecture was given by Dr. Ferdinandi, who is the vice rector of our university, and who's also an editor-in-chief of the British Journal of Pharmacology.
Wow.
And I remember, being really inspired during those lectures, and I talked to a few people afterwards. And so I just was really determined to find an opportunity as soon as possible because I just couldn't wait. And I had a professor at that time who was the only person who took my interest seriously that early on, and he gave some practical tips of what to do. And I waited until the end of the first exam season. I then wrote an email to my prospective mentor, with my CV. I remember mentioning, sir, I have no idea how it's done. I have no experience with lab work, but I'm willing to work hard and learn. So obviously I didn't really expect much out of that whole situation. And to my surprise, I got a reply that very same evening inviting me for an interview the next week. And I walked out of that interview with an offer.
Do you have any advice for those students like to do research at Semmelweis?
We have a lot of different opportunities to join research at Semmelweis, which is wonderful. However, having said that, I have to point out that you have to be prepared to dedicate time to it. You have to prepare to work hard and be a team player, and also to be prepared to learn a lot besides your curriculum. It is possible to join early on, so don't let people discourage you or tell you otherwise. However, I would encourage you to at least finish your first semester, just so you sort of, have an idea of what your schedule is like, how you handle the study load, etc., and then you can start. If you're not sure how to go about it, I would recommend to talk to a couple of professors, see what's going on in their departments, in their fields. Maybe they'll recommend something. You can also check out a website we have of the Student Scientific Association where they list some of the current projects going on. Then what I would suggest is to write a couple of emails to the people who run those projects with your CV and letter of intent, and then just take it from there and see what happens.
Okay. How do you manage all your different responsibilities?
It takes a lot of time management, definitely, and a lot of discipline. And I wouldn't be able to do it without my family. So my family really allow me the opportunity, to focus on my studies and my work. So I owe it all to them.
Do you have any hobbies?
Actually, yes, I do. I mean, as medical students, we don't really have much free time. But when I do have a spare minute, I like to write. You can just ask my friends how I love to terrorize them with my really long texts. But I also like to write poetry if I feel inspired. And one of my recent hobbies is I really got interested in making short videos, which basically started as a joke with my husband last summer when he was trying to introduce me to the social media platforms. And over time, it grew into this thing, sort of medium of self-expression and a kind of art form, maybe I would say, which allows me to basically tell stories without words and also to convey my point of view and to convey certain messages as well. Like, for example, some of the videos I shot about my lab and about the work that we do, and I tried to do it in a sort of playful and humorous way. And I used it to try and get more people excited about research and possibly come join us. Some of the videos I used with my kids in mind because I wanted to show them where I am when I'm not at home and what I do. And in some of the videos, I focused on trying to represent girls and women, from our university who are studying, who are doing research as well, because I believe it is very important to show role models to people. And especially, being a mom of 3 girls, it is important for me to know that they have those role models to see. And so they know that science and medicine, it's not just for boys.
Which is good.
Amazing.
Is there anyone who inspires you?
Yes, absolutely. There are many different people who inspire me in different ways and in different areas of my life. My number one inspiration always comes from my family, especially from my wonderful husband and my mom-in-law, who are very supportive and very loving, and who always believe in me and who work really hard, to give me an opportunity to focus on the things that I'm doing as well. My kids inspire me a lot, and they teach me a lot about curiosity and patience. When it comes to professional life and development, definitely my number one inspiration is my mentor, Dr. Christos Kanopoulos, who sets a great example with his, attitude and work ethic and his numerous achievements. So I'm always inspired after having conversations with him, discussing new ideas, brainstorming together. So that's, for sure. There are lots of wonderful people at our university, fellow students and colleagues, a lot of whom became friends as well. They all come from very different places and have very different backgrounds and life stories. But what inspires me in all of them is, their drive to follow their dreams. My personal role model is a very inspiring woman whose name is Dr. Veronica Adam, who is a very famous Hungarian biochemist. And she was, in fact, my mentor's mentor back when he joined research as a young man. And I think she is a great example to many girls and women because she showed that it is possible to be a successful scientist, a leader, and also at the same time a family woman and a mother. And my most recent experience that I had that really inspired me was actually organized by Semmelweis University and by the US Embassy, which was focused on science and was focused on the role of girls and women in science and climate change and innovation. It was led by an incredible speaker, Dr. Aubrey Paris, who works for the US Department of State and actually deals with environment and women's issues. And I think that was a very interesting event for people who attended, and we walked out with lots of new inspiring
Do you
ideas.
have any advice for students who wish to study medicine?
If it's a passion of yours, definitely go for it. Do not let challenges stop you. Definitely surround yourself with friends because you will need a lot of humor to get through it. Study a lot, study from the very beginning. Don't leave things till the last moment because, the amount of material, it's huge. So it's not very easy to process in a short period of time, but it is very manageable if you break it down into smaller parts and do it consistently.
Thank you very much, Victoria, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation that we had.
Absolutely.
And to everyone watching, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Please leave a like and subscribe and comment down below if you have any further questions. We'll reply as soon as possible. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.